Now Trouble's here. We were all waiting.
How are you?
Good, how are you, sweetie?
I'm good.
Busy week?
Never ends, you know.
Yeah, it's fun that way. Better way to spend the void.
I'm the moderator for today.
Nice to meet you.
Your name, Carlin Provenza, am I saying it?
Check, check.
Okay.
Okay, how's that? Loud enough, but not too loud? Perfect. Thank you all for being here and good evening. So summer really is my favorite time of year. For us, it's not because we get to do vacations or any of those things. Librarians do not take vacation in the summer. But just for a sample, in the last 2 weeks in this room, we've had wildlife specialists introducing kids to falcons. We turned it into an escape room for teenagers, and we've hosted candidate forums. So we really just cover the gamut here at the library. We do all of the things. But I will say partnering every 2 years with the League of Women Voters to do these candidate forums is always a really true highlight for me. So the mission of the Albany County Public Library is to build meaningful connections, to inspire growth, to cultivate curiosity, and to enhance community. And this, to me, checks all of the boxes. It's one of the best ways that we can do that. So I want to thank the League of Women Voters for just being such great partners in bringing this to our community. And a special thanks to Kaylin Brooks, who's not here this evening, but she put a lot of effort into coordinating and making this happen. A great thank you to the library staff for making all of the technology, logistics, and setup work. Thank you all to you that are here in person and people who are joining us virtually and people at some point in the future that are going to watch this video. Thank you for joining us and participating. It's really important. And to the candidates, I want to thank you guys for your time and effort to join us this evening and to run and your willingness to serve our community. It really matters, and it's part of what makes Albany County a really great place to be. So thank you. A few logistics. As I briefly mentioned before, we are live streaming it. That live stream then is just recorded and will live on our YouTube channel. So for the audience, thank you for bearing with us and this funny camera sitting in the middle of the room that's allowing us to live stream this event. The other important things for the moderator and for the candidates, please be sure to use their microphones. It's definitely going to help the people in the back of the room here, but it is essential to making sure that the people online can hear. So please make sure to use those, and we'll give you a flag. We're listening in, so we'll give you a flag if we can't hear you. So again, thank you. And now I want to turn it over and introduce Lynn Pina, who is the Albany County Chair for the League of Women Voters, to tell us a little bit more about tonight's forum.
Well, I'm replacing Nancy Lockwood. It doesn't seem possible. I did this once before in Rock River. Maybe you'll remember. My name is Lynn Pina, and I'm the president of League of Women Voters of Laramie. And welcome to the second of our 6th forum for the primary season. On behalf of the Laramie League, thanks again to the Albany County Library for being such a great partner. Special thanks to Rachel, library director, and to Riley Shogren. He's the guy with the library's initials over there. Further thanks go to Rachel, who brought us Kaylin Brooks. She's not here tonight. She's on a well-deserved vacation, but she will be back soon. She's an intern to the Laramie League for this election season. She recently finished a term with the AmeriCorps service, and she was working at the United Way. Closer? Oh, dear. Okay. She was working with the United Way of Albany County, and she's previously worked with Larimer County, Colorado, and their League of Women Voters. So when we invited her to do this, she knew what she was getting in for. She graduated in political science, has a strong interest in voter ed, and she'll see this video later. I just want to thank her for all her hard work and her bright new ideas. All of the 2022 candidate forums are planned to be in this format, hybrid, although we didn't need to use Zoom tonight. We have an audience here in the library and viewers online. And you know, the last time I looked, I don't know if you've looked, Rachel, lately, I saw we had 49 viewers from last time. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. These events are live streamed and recorded on YouTube, and you can always view last week's forum on the library website. And it's so much better than it's ever been before because of all this wonderful technology. And you can now get a transcript. So if you do what I did here at the beginning and nobody can hear me, it will come out in the transcript. So if you're watching the video, there's a little menu across, just under the image, and those little dots at the end, meaning there's more to come. Click on that and take the option, Show Transcript. And besides those places, one day soon, Laramie's TV channel, Channel 191, is going to start airing our recordings. There's nothing there yet, but we'll get on that. Now, I don't think she mentioned it. Tonight's forum is for House Districts 14, 45, and 46. And we invited all the candidates who filed for these seats. The Senate District 9 and the House District 13, you might think they'd be here too, but they're later, they're on the 28th. And let's begin tonight's forum with a little bit about the primary and a few words about tonight's procedures. Okay, so if you don't know already, the primary election is August 16. Polling places are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and absentee vote started last week on July 1. And there are so many ways to get voting information and an absentee ballot. There's also this wonderful advantage of voting in Laramie. You can do everything at the polls on Election Day. So if you're registered and not making any changes to your information, go online to the Secretary of State's website, complete an online ballot request. I did that, and mine arrived in about a week. Once it arrives, and you've made your choices, mail it or put it in a drop box. There's one on the east side of the courthouse. Just make sure to submit before August 15th or earlier. Or if you forget, take your ballot to the poll. All of that works. To register or make changes, visit the county clerk, and you can call her, you can email her, and in addition, you can register or change your affiliation. I would warn you that if you change your affiliation, it will stay that until after the election, the primary election. Okay, so now your polling place may have changed since the last time because of the 2020 redistricting. And I'm, for example, in Lincoln Center over in West Laramie. I've never been over there for my voting. But if you're a registered voter in Albany County, you should have received a postcard. Al and I got ours, but today I couldn't find them. You may be in that boat as well. And there are these lovely maps back on the wall. I just have it on my phone and I enlarge it. I know that those little maps didn't help us at all at the Freedom Has a Birthday party. Anyway, it's easy to download a current map from the city site. We do have sample ballots, or we will have ballots over there. Don't remove them, they're single copies. But you could just log into places like vote411.org, and if you put down your address, it will give you your sample ballot. It will also give you your polling site. And remember that only candidates from your party will appear on your primary ballot vote. And then at the general election, we have just one ballot. All right, so on July 17th, the Boomerang is going to publish our ever so helpful League's voter guide. Some copies will be around town at places like the post office or the Epson Center. They'll also be downloadable from various websites, the library, the League, I think the Boomerang. And those same responses that fill the voter guide are on Vote 411. So you could go today and see what everyone's responses or replies were. Don't have to wait until the 17th. Okay, so at this point, I'd like to welcome anyone else in our audience who's a candidate for something other than these 3 seats, and or is a serving public official. Sue? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ray Pasco. I'm running for City Council, Ward 2.
Okay.
I'm Moderator. I'm a county commissioner, and thank God I don't have to campaign this time.
Okay, well, to the audience, tonight's forum, we begin tonight's forum with questions for the candidates. We've solicited, as we always do, for questions from the public, and we will take questions during the forum. That's why you've got pads and papers. If you have a question, put it on a little on the pad and raise your hand, and someone from the league will come around and pick it up and transfer it to our moderator. Questions should be directed toward all the candidates, not a particular person, and each candidate has 90 seconds to reply to our candidates. Our timekeepers are Jamie Egolf and Al Tremblay. They will signal you by holding up cards informing you of your time remaining. So we're counting down. And the last card will be stop, I think. And to everyone, the moderator has the privilege of editing questions for clarity or combining questions. It's his choice whether he wants to ask follow-up questions or change the time because of the complexity of a question. We'll break at about 8:30, and then we have 20 to 30 minutes for just informal mingling. All right? And now I'm going to turn it over to our new moderator, Brad Kovac. I hope I did that right. Brad Kovac is a lifelong Wyoming resident. He's lived in Star Valley, Rock Springs, and now Laramie. In 2014, he got a degree in computer science at UW, and he's now a software developer at UL Solutions in Laramie. Brad has served on the board of directors of the United Way of Albany County since 2020, and he enjoys coordinating community events. And since Brad adopted Seymour, it's a big black lab and Siberian husky, he's also come to enjoy vacuuming. So, Brad is a new volunteer for the League of Women Voters of Laramie, and let's welcome Brad.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me okay? It's a little low, but does it need to a little louder? A little louder? Or we good? Okay. Awesome. I'd like to thank League of Women Voters for reaching out to me and giving me this opportunity to moderate this this forum. I think this is a great thing for our democracy. It's so great to see so many people involved, and it's so great to see the candidates here as well. So yeah, I guess let's kick this thing off. The first thing we're going to do is candidate introductions. And so I was thinking, Mirav, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
How much time do I have?
Let's see. 90 seconds, right? 60, 90, whatever. Okay.
How's that?
Let's see.
Good.
If you would, introduce your name, office for which you're running, and your party affiliation.
Okay, I'm Rav Ben David. I'm a wildlife ecologist and am a professor at the University of Wyoming for the past 22 years. I was the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate, the Wyoming U.S. Senate seat, and currently I'm running for House District 46.
Thank you. Next, we will go to Richard or R.J. Lennox.
Good evening. My name is Richard R.J. Lennox. I am running for House District 46. I grew up here in southeastern Wyoming in Cheyenne. Graduated high school from Central High School in '89. Attended the University of Wyoming, got a degree in elementary education in '95. Just since I was in college and working for the legislature back in '95 has always been a passion of mine. I love this process. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting us. Excited to be here and take part.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to Julie McAllister, please.
My name is Julie McAllister. I'm running for House District 14 as a Republican. I actually live up in Rock River, so with redistricting, having Laramie as part of my district is new to me, and quite frankly, I'm very excited about it. I was not born in Wyoming. I didn't get a say-so in that one. And as soon as I could at 19, first adult decision I made was to come back home to Laramie. Got a degree in poli-sci, master's in public administration. Ended up living in Rock River because Laramie was still a little bit too big of a city for me. I grew up right outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and a lot of the reason I got involved in politics from the beginning was because I didn't want to see a lot of the things that happened there happen here. In 2014, after my husband and I got hurt in 2012 and fixing what felt like a lifetime of problems after they'd already been created, after they could have been solved, I had enough to put my money where my mouth was and started getting involved. Since then, have made some great relationships. I certainly am a bit torn about redistricting and miss a lot of people that I still have wonderful relationships with and will continue those. But in moving forward, the reason I'm running is I just got tired of fixing things before they should have ever been broken. Things should have been seen beforehand. I spent a lifetime at it. Not much has improved since the first time I ran, and I look forward to the challenges this new district brings and answering any questions all of you may have.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to Carly.
Hi, my name is Carly Provenza. I am the current sitting representative for House District 45. I am running for the same seat. And I am the product of a working class family and a community organizer, and I just care so deeply about this community, as many of everyone here else does. Word salad, you're welcome. Everybody who has to read the transcript. I'll warm up, thank you. And I'm running on the Democratic ticket.
Thank you. We can go to Brian next.
Thank you. My name's Brian Schuster. I've been in Laramie a very long time. I went to the old Slate schools, not the new one, which is going to open this year and be one of our polling places, and junior high and high school here. I am married, have 3 kids, and would love to thank the League of Women Voters. This is my 5th time appearing here between city council races and this. I have 20 years experience on the city council. I'm a Republican, and I hope everyone votes.
Thank you. And Trey.
Thank you. I'm Trey Sherwood. I am the current representative for House District 14, and I'm running for re-election so that I can continue to serve this community that I love, that we all love. I work as an economic developer and build community through collaboration and partnerships. I'm also a graduate of Leadership Wyoming, and so I have a passion to serve not only Albany County, but the state from that experience. So I want to thank the League for hosting us, for making the process to vote very accessible, and just appreciate everyone's engagement. And I am running as a Democrat.
All right, thank you. That's got we've got everybody introduced here. So we'll begin and start jumping into some questions here. All right, I'm going to start with these ones. And we will kick this off. Brian, I would like you to go first this time. Okay. Is a ban on abortion consistent with the provisions of the Wyoming Constitution?
The Wyoming Constitution has stated, the Wyoming Constitution has stated not so much a ban, but a right in this state. They did a vote. It has not been signed by the governor. If he does not sign it in 30 days, it becomes a law. They have 2 clinics, or 1 clinic and 1 being built right now, one in Jackson, and the current one being built is in Casper. If you're asking for a personal opinion, it's hard to give a personal opinion because it can be 1,000 different reasons for this. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Same question, going to Julie next. Is a ban on abortion consistent with the provisions of the Wyoming Constitution?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that question. These microphones are a bit persnickety, aren't they? Pardon me while I scoot forward. That's a really loaded question for a couple of reasons. The Wyoming Constitution has a specific provision in which it states, and pardon me, I'm going to get the wording wrong, basically that each adult should have power over their own medical decisions. What does that mean? Last time I checked, the Wyoming Supreme Court has not defined that. So I'm not sure if House Bill 92, which I believe Councilman Schuster was referring to, is constitutional or not. Last week I had a conversation with a couple constitutional law professors, both of which felt it might not be constitutional. So that is a question that is very interesting and very loaded, and quite frankly, I'm not a judge. Those are the facts as I know them. Do I support abortion in every way, shape, or form? No. But my life would have been terminated if I had not had a DNC in 2013. I'm also sitting next to a woman who spoke about a very personal experience when I believe this bill or another was on the floor. Had I not gone through with the medical procedure because there was no heartbeat at that time, I would have died. Is that considered an abortion? I don't know. You tell me. The law has not described these things, so I don't think that it has been fully investigated the way it needs to be, but it needs to be done in a serious legal and medical conversation.
Awesome, thank you. We'll go to Carly next. Is a ban on abortion consistent with the provisions of the Wyoming Constitution?
Thank you. I'm not the person who gets to say whether that's constitutional or not, but I would argue that no. Because what we have in our state constitution is that we have a right to make our own healthcare decisions over our own bodies. Not only does our state constitution say that, it also says that we and every person in the state of Wyoming has the right to pursue happiness and equal protection under the law. I would argue that the right to get an abortion fulfills all of those things, and taking that away is in violation of Wyoming's constitution, Wyoming's values, and I hope that judges agree with me if the governor decides to pass this forward, which I would urge him not to.
All right, thank you. Trey, we'll go to you next. Thanks. Is a ban on abortion consistent with the provisions of the Wyoming Constitution?
Thank you. My personal opinion is no. And just to shed some more light onto this conversation, House Bill 92, which has been referenced here, was passed earlier this year, and it's essentially our trigger law. So it states that an abortion shall not be performed except when necessary to preserve the woman from serious risk of death or of substantial or irreversible physical impairment. It also includes provision for rape or incest. Neither of those things have been clearly defined. So I, as many of my colleagues did, voted against this bill and believe that it should be challenged in court as it is inconsistent with our rights, those rights identified in the Wyoming Constitution, to make our own reproductive health care decisions. So our Constitution, Article 1, Section 38, states the right of health care access. Each competent adult shall have the right to make his or her own health care decisions, and the state of Wyoming shall act to preserve these rights from undue government infringement. So because Wyoming's trigger law, pending the governor's signature, includes exemptions for the health and safety of the mother, this groups abortion in with health care, thus making the case to rule this bill unconstitutional. Thank you.
All right, RJ, can we go to you next? Is a ban on abortion consistent with the provisions of the Wyoming Constitution?
I do believe that it is now being challenged, that House Bill 92, to determine the constitutionality of it. When I look at this issue, I like to kind of look at the law versus the passion. Everyone up here, you know, if we are sitting in the legislature next year, we don't really have the luxury to have that passion. We have to have the restraint to look at the law, to understand the Wyoming Constitution, and to understand the nuances of what our voice will mean to the citizens of Wyoming.
Thank you. And Marav, same question to you. Is a ban on abortion consistent with the provisions of the Wyoming Constitution?
based on my understanding of the Constitution, as Trey gracefully read to us, the abortion prohibition bill is unconstitutional. And I want to bring another topic to alert people to the fact that maternal mortality in Wyoming has increased by 11% since 2016. An infant or a newborn or preborn mortality increased by 8% since 2016. We are already hurting women, and we are already hurting, and I would say the word, killing our babies. It's time to stop this trend, and this bill only exacerbates the problem. So I am glad that now the bill is challenged in court, and I hope that whoever makes the decision makes the right decision to hold our Constitution.
All right, thank you. Next question we will be going to, kind of on the same topic. Rather than regarding the constitutionality, this question is about your candidate position. And so the question is, what is your position regarding Wyoming's trigger law in denying a woman's right to reproductive health care? Carly, I'd like to go with you first. I can say that again. Would you like me to read the question again?
I'll just pair it back to you. You want to know what my opinion is about House Bill 92 and the
Yes.
trigger ban? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I voted no on this bill, and I spoke very publicly on why. Part of the discussion has always been what about the health of women? And one of the things that is really interesting to me that wasn't brought up during debate is that pregnancy is very risky. Pregnancy is not the safest option. The safest option is not to be pregnant. And we're asking women to have to choose. We're potentially asking them to have to go to law enforcement or whoever we deem is going to be the arbiter of who's making the decision, is it rape or not? And as a sexual assault survivor who reported my sexual assault and it was mishandled, I don't want anyone to go through that ever again. I don't want them to have to go in front of a court of public opinion, in front of our legal system that has shown us that it is rife with errors. And this bill will do far more harm than if we were to leave it alone and let people make decisions about what they want to do with their own bodies.
Thank you. We'll do the same question. I'll go to Julie. I'll read it back for you. What is your position regarding Wyoming's trigger law in denying a woman's right to her reproductive health care? I think you kind of already went into that, but I'll give you a chance to just kind of clarify. And
Is she going to ding me again if I don't go over? As I commented prior on a personal experience on a pregnancy that did not survive, in a medical procedure I had to go through to preserve my own life, House Bill 92 bothers me because I see it as causing people to potentially lose their lives. I also had a very good friend almost die from ectopic pregnancy. These are things that happen, and maybe women need to do a better job at discussing this with men and explaining to them that it may or not be a choice. It may be a medical necessity. Your life could easily be on the line. And that's not the conversation we are having about abortion. That's not the conversation they had when they debated House Bill 92. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but that is not where the conversation went. They didn't consult medical professionals. They didn't consult enough women to know what they were talking about. I often make a joking comment when discussing abortion, when discussing children, when discussing foster care is, do you have a uterus? If not, you lack jurisdiction. I unfortunately had to have a hysterectomy 2 years ago due to infertility issues, so I no longer have jurisdiction.
thank you. Same question, we'll go to Brian. What is your position regarding Wyoming's trigger law in denying a woman's right to her reproductive health care?
We go back to the Wyoming Constitution, which guarantees each individual, women, men, on their freedom of their health and happiness. This bill is more or less saying, we're not going to give you the choice on everything. We're only going to give you the choice on some things. One of the things I like is being a person. Being a person with all the rights that a person should have. And I think all the women should have the rights that a person should have. So no, I'm not in favor of this because it's taking away a right of a person. Thank you.
Thank you. Marav, we'll go to you next. What is your position regarding Wyoming's trigger law in denying a woman's right to her reproductive care?
So I view healthcare as a human right, and that includes everything. I don't think that healthcare and whether they live or die should depend on their zip code. So as a human right, if we believe women are human, then I believe that they should have the right to choose their healthcare decisions on their own in complete privacy. It's none of our business what people choose to do with healthcare. But I wanted to bring another issue that is kind of missed in all this discussion, and that is that these trigger laws in Wyoming and in other states raise a lot of other reproductive ethical issues. And they go beyond abortion. They are in vitro fertilization. What are we going to do with the embryos that sit in freezers if there is a power outage, like happened to my colleagues in Baylor University in Texas? A lot of human embryos, if we believe that they are human and they should not be aborted, they died in freezers that thawed out. We need to think about that too. What about women that have miscarriages? How are we going to treat them? So I think we have to start. The baseline is healthcare is a human right, and we women are humans.
Thank you. Trey, same question to you. What is your position regarding Wyoming's trigger law in denying a woman's right to her reproductive health care?
Thank you. Is that on? Yeah. As I stated before, I voted against this bill, not only for my concern over its constitutionality, but just the message that it sends. If we're truly to live up to our moniker of the equality state, we need to treat both men and women as equal, and equal in the eyes of the law. And this is definitely an emotional topic. It has encouraged women to come forth and share the nuances of challenges of being pregnant, trying to give birth, and as everyone has stated, this is not a simple cut and dry issue. We lack access to affordable health care, reproductive care, consistent and clear care now. There are now physicians that are telling women to go to Colorado if they are trying to get pregnant and they've had a miscarriage in the past because they don't feel comfortable in being able to provide basic services. So this is a problem for Wyoming, and this definitely will be a top of mind for voters and what we are discussing in January come session. So please make your voices heard and reach out to those of us who are running. We want to hear your stories. Thank you.
Then RJ, you get the last word on this issue. What is your position regarding Wyoming's trigger law in denying a woman's right to her reproductive health care?
I don't want to mess with words here, but like Marav said, this trigger law is triggering so many other issues and questions that come up. Again, I have to go back to the law, and that's what would drive me. But when you do talk about the personal side, I do see the potential, and I don't want the potential of life to be lost. not just with the abortion issue, with a lot of issues. I'm always thinking about that. But legally, I'm worried that in Wyoming, we have several communities that have lost maternity services in their community. I'm worried that Montana today was already talking about a ban on out-of-state patients being able to receive abortion pills. So there's so many things that are going to come up with this that we need to, stay focused on what's legal, what's right. My final thought would be, me personally, is the safe, rare, and legal.
All right, thank you. We'll kind of shift gears here to a different line of topics. Thank you to all the panelists for your kind answers on that. So we'll go here, shift to the topic of climate change. So we'll start here on this one. Brian, I'd like you to be able to go first this time. Is anthropogenic climate change a fact? And what, if anything, should Wyoming do about this?
The earth is a great thing. I don't want to say it self-cleans itself. It doesn't. We have proven that we've went through several ice ages. Climate change is going to happen whether human population is here or not. Do I think we should do everything we can to be good to Mother Earth, we call it. So should we go out and pollute and not care? No, we absolutely should not. I feel all companies, all businesses, all people are decent people. Do we have some that do more than others on creating, I'm going to use the word pollution. I don't know if I should use climate change or what. But what is the number one greenhouse gas contributor of the earth? What are the top 20 in there on the earth? We need to take care of it. I'm a teacher. I love to take my students out there. I let them know that when we go out, that they will not even leave a candy bar wrapper, or I'll never allow them to go again. I believe we need to take care of it. I intend to stay here in Laramie. I love the outdoors, and I see 10 seconds, so I'm going to finish with that.
Thank you. Just to kind of to push in there, the question at the heart of that is anthropogenic, is it, in your view, is anthropogenic climate change a fact?
I'm not sure. That's my view on it. I won't say yes or no.
That the question was what's anthropogenic? Human caused. Yep.
The number one cause for climate change, if you Google it and research it, is not human.
Okay.
Well, it is. It's biological, but it's not human.
Thank you. Okay. We will go, Marav, I'd like to give you a chance to answer this question. Is anthropogenic climate change a fact? And what, if anything, should Wyoming do about this?
So, thank you. This is one of the top priorities for me, because for the last nearly 40 years, I have been studying climate change. From a wildlife ecologist perspective, I study how climate change affects our wildlife and our fish resources. And because I'm interested in wildlife and fish, I also have to look at water. And in Wyoming, this year, because of climate change, secondary water rights holders on the lower Platte River did not get the water. We don't have enough water for everybody that have rights to water. Lake Mead is very close to what's called a dead pool. Texas has one of the most severe droughts. In Africa, people are dying. Wildlife, the livestock dying. All of this is because human-caused climate change. What can we do in Wyoming? We need to get off the bandwagon of fossil fuel industry and develop, for our own sake and the sake of the world, we need to develop a better economy that is also including renewable resources, but also other diverse sources of income for the state. Because as the planet goes down, we'll go down with it.
Thank you. Julie, I'd like you to take a stab at this question next. Is anthropogenic climate change a fact? And what, if anything, should Wyoming do about this?
Thank you for that question. It's not just you, Trey. All these microphones have a mind of their own. Yes, it is. It's pretty easy to look at the science, and until the science updates itself and proves it's not, we're able to find quite a bit of interesting data that showed that emissions weren't exactly coming where we thought they were coming from during quarantine. Quarantine offered us some fantastic data and numbers we can use in real time to strengthen industry, regulate things where it's actually necessary, and adjust things. And I haven't heard a single person in Wyoming bring it up. Not a single legislator actually caring about it. Now, also, mind you, the state of Wyoming, as far as I know, and I could easily be mistaken, does not even have an administrative agency capable of enforcing any form of a client regulation. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but as far as I know, Wyoming has a federal EPA plan that is approved by the federal government that we are allowed to administer, but we do not have an agency or the ability to regulate in place. So anything on a state level would have to start there. As far as it being a fact, I'm going to keep it pretty simple on this. My favorite thing to do in Wyoming is to hunt. 20 years of hunting, I can see it myself in my hunting grounds. I don't cover as many square miles as I would like to anymore, but I cover as many square miles as I possibly can, and I can see it. So yeah, it's at this point, until science can prove it wrong, which I hope that it continues to look and be active and not be paid for by corporations to give us good information.
Thank you. RJ, the question is anthropogenic climate change a fact? And what, if anything, should Wyoming do about it?
The climate change for me kind of takes on two tracks. Certainly, we want to be good stewards to our environment. We want to make sure we're adhering to regulations. My family business in Cheyenne is an auto body and paint restoration shop. So obviously we have regulations as far as the emissions that go out and how we store some of the paint waste and those products. So those regulations are in place that we follow. But sometimes I believe climate change takes on a political nature. We can look at any energy source, and there's going to be an impact to the environment. So when we talk about climate change within the context of a legislature, I don't want us to put our thumb and start picking winners and losers as far as what industries we're going to support. I think it's important that we understand what impacts all those energy industries have on the environment and look at it from a realistic way and not necessarily a political kind of, supportive game of what energy industries we want to support and which ones we kind of want to put our thumb on.
Thank you. Trey, I'll let you go next. The question is anthropogenic climate change a fact? And what, if anything, should Wyoming do about this?
Thank you. Yes, I do believe that climate change is human-caused, and it is further exacerbated by our preferences for social comfort. We like to have our houses heated or cooled. We like to be able to drive ourselves places, right? So there's a convenience factor and an economic factor where it will be hard for Wyomingites to sort of reconcile this with legislation. But I do believe that we should do a better job of diversifying our energy portfolio. So while we're doing this all of the above strategy and trying to find ways to utilize coal without burning it, which the School of Energy Resources is doing a phenomenal job with, we should do a better job of empowering our state agencies like the Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ, Game and Fish, and the University of Wyoming to proactively address the negative impacts that climate change are having both on our communities, our state, our nation, and on our global economy. Many of my colleagues up here have talked about about access to the outdoors, hunting and fishing. And so our ranchers, our ag producers, our hunters are very acutely aware of how this problem is playing out within our own boundaries. And realizing that we see increasing temperatures and earlier snow melt, this is a problem for our communities in our state that the legislature should more aggressively address.
Thank you. And Carly, same question to you. Is anthropogenic climate change a fact? And what, if anything, should Wyoming do about this?
Absolutely. Climate scientists have a consensus. We know that it is caused by human use and carbon. We have created a mess. And the only reason that this question is problematic and hard to answer is because billions of dollars have been spent to try and tell us that it's iffy, that climate change isn't caused by people. But the reality is that it is. And now we are in a crisis where we have to consider what's the next 10 years going to look like. I have to think about what's it going to look like for water in 20 years. Am I going to have to protect my water resources so that my family can stay hydrated? That's the reality that we are in. It is dire. So what should Wyoming do about it? I have a lot of ideas about what we should do about it. Ideally, renewables aren't enough. It's too late. We have to stop using energy. We have to slow down. We have to figure out how to live comfortable or maybe less comfortable lives so that we can continue to breathe air and drink water. What we need to do in the meantime, though, is work to conserve what we have, make sure that we are protecting our wildlife herds, make sure that we are trying to sustain the habitats that we do have. Sage grouse have dramatically suffered. Our ungulate herds are suffering because our habitat is disappearing. So how can we make sure that no more of it disappears as much as we can, protect our heritage in the state of Wyoming?
Thank you. Yes. Oh.
This commercial break brought to you by Exxon.
They did this last week too. Each one of them does half of it.
Straight out of Parks and Recreation.
Like a banner running across the back, fun
Yeah.
whole thing.
Mobile oil.
All right, you ready? Okay. Next question is, and so I'll just read the question once, and then we'll just start going down the list here. Many Wyoming Republicans believe the 2020 presidential vote nationally and in Wyoming was not counted fairly. Do you share this belief? And if so, what do you base this belief upon? Let's see. Marav, we'll have you go first this time. So I'll say it again for you. Many Wyoming Republicans believe the 2020 presidential vote nationally and in Wyoming was not counted fairly. Do you share this belief? And if so, what do you base this belief upon?
So if we believe that the 2020 Wyoming election was not counted properly or not handled properly, I should be sitting in the US Senate right now. So my personal belief is that, yeah, it was not properly handled, and I am the Wyoming US Senator. But the reality is, I'm sorry, I had to joke about it. The reality is that during my campaign in 2020, I got to travel throughout the whole state. I visited 22 of the 23 counties in Wyoming and participated in many candidate forums like this one. And I met a lot of election officials. And I can tell you that there is absolutely no reason to believe that the election was, as the Republicans would say, was stolen. On the contrary, it was very, very well handled in Wyoming and all over the United States. Every case where People thought there was fraud. It turned out to be a fraudulent statement. And we are finding out through the January 6th commission that actually the whole thing was a conspiracy, and it's actually, the whole claim is a lie. Thank you.
Thanks. RJ, same question to you. Many Wyoming Republicans believe the 2020 presidential vote nationally and in Wyoming was not counted fairly. Do you share this belief? And if so, what do you base this belief upon?
I do not share that belief, and let me try to answer it this way. Over the last 10 so odd years, both sides create narratives, and they get their base riled up. You know, myself as a Republican, we thought Hillary Clinton was going to jail. We were told she's going to jail. And then on the other side, you know, now everyone's, Donald Trump's going to jail, going to jail. And we hear these things constantly. And nothing ever happens to any of these people. I'm waiting for law and prosecutions to actually happen anywhere at any time to tell me this is real. Until then, it's just talking heads, it's just noise, it's just a narrative to drive out voters and to get them riled up, get them passionate. But I need to see the substance. I need to see actual prosecutions and not just the noise.
Thank you. Julie, we'll go to you next. Many Wyoming Republicans believe the 2020 presidential vote nationally and in Wyoming was not counted fairly. Do you share this belief? And if so, what do you base this belief upon?
I'm going to answer that two-part questions in two parts. One, no, I don't think the vote was stolen in Wyoming, and I actually take offense to it. I know a number of the clerks. I know a number of the candidates who've run for clerk, and we do a darn good job on our elections in Wyoming. We always have. In fact, we've got a fantastic reputation for it. And even if it had every single electoral vote we had went to Trump anyway, so I'm not quite sure the substance behind that, because I have confidence in our elections. I have confidence in our state beyond any other. And I take a bit of offense to that. As for the other, I would like to see proof, but it's not there. Everything that could be beaten up and looked at's been beaten up and looked at, and I'd like to see it there. In more reflection of RJ, I guess, I don't think we're going to have a Margaret Mitchell on this one, and probably most of this room is not old enough to know what I'm talking about. But those who do probably do, but I think it's already happened, and we're just not there yet. So that's my opinion on that.
Thank you.
I don't like it, but no, I don't think it was.
Thanks. Carly, we'll go to you next. Same question. Many Wyoming Republicans believe the 2020 presidential vote nationally and in Wyoming was not counted fairly. Do you share this belief? And if so, what do you base this belief upon?
No, it was not a fraudulent vote. Nothing was done wrong. During the past session, the budget session, we were tasked with redistricting. And in redistricting, we heard from clerks, I believe, in probably every county, including this one. None of them reported to us any irregularities. None of them reported fraud. Our Secretary of State has done his due diligence to take voting machines and have a transparent process of showing people what that looks like. Candidates are able to watch. We have poll watchers. It absolutely didn't happen, and there is no evidence to it. Even the people that say they believe the election was fraudulent don't factually believe that the election was fraudulent. And we've seen hundreds of lawsuits and no evidence to support that. If there was any, we would have seen it by now. We need to stop allowing rhetoric that happens nationally or just in general to come in and say that what we're doing in Wyoming isn't working. This is one example of national issues and talking points that come from ideologues that don't actually impact or influence Wyoming whatsoever. We need to get back to Wyoming values. We know our elections are solid, and we need to stick to that.
Thank you. Brian, the question goes to you next. Many Wyoming Republicans believe the 2020 presidential vote nationally and in Wyoming was not counted fairly. Do you share this belief? And if so, what do you base this belief upon?
Okay, first of all, I don't like the question. You've grouped a group of people in that question. You said this wasn't going to be a thing on individual candidates. You have some Republicans sitting here. That's disappointing to hear that question. Did we have people that said it? Yeah, let's use the word people and not pick on an affiliation. That's very disappointing. I've known Jackie Gonzalez for over 40 years. She's a very reputable person and I think does a fantastic, perfect job. I've been on city council 20 years. I've seen probably 4 recounts. They were within 1 vote on the recounts. 1 vote, meaning that they do a stellar job down there. It's to me, I think that the election was perfect here. I don't know about other states, but I think they were probably pretty darn close. Do I know if they're perfect or not? I do not know. But it's a very disappointing question that was asked here tonight. A very disappointing.
Thank you. And just to finish this round out, we'll ask the same question to Trey. Many Wyoming Republicans believe the 2020 presidential vote nationally and in Wyoming was not counted fairly. Do you share this belief? And if so, what do you base this belief upon?
I think we're in consensus here.
Yeah.
On this table. So no, I do not believe the election was stolen. I do not share this belief. But I want to, reiterate again that our clerks and Secretary of State has done a phenomenal job. And if you were to approach your local clerk or the Secretary of State, they would open everything up to you, right? So we have accessible government, we are transparent, people are going to be accountable to you, the voter, to show how the process works. So if you have any doubt in your mind or any confusion, please reach out to those people and ask for a walkthrough of the process. But kind of pivoting to this narrative that is very divisive and is only feeding the culture of contempt. We all, especially here in Albany County, because we are a blended community, we're a purple county, we need to speak up against these narratives as we hear them. We need to defend our colleagues regardless of their political affiliation. We need to lead with facts. We need to embrace the truth, and we need to debate ideas, not individuals. That's what will create more public trust.
Thank you. All right, switching topics a little bit here again. Want to go back to the future of the Wyoming economy. So the question is, with revenue fluctuations from gas and oil and demand for coal reduced, what do you envision for a transition and a future Wyoming economy? On this one, we will, who haven't we started with yet? Julie, I think you haven't been getting.
I was actually jotting down notes.
Yep, I will read it again.
Say it again?
Yep.
Whoever you asked,
Yes, of
I'll
course.
just be the one who asks.
Yep, Julie, with revenue fluctuations from gas and oil and demand for coal reduced, what do you envision for a transition and a future Wyoming economy?
That's as fast as I can write, sorry. Thank you for that incredibly hard question to answer in 90 seconds that Wyoming's been trying to figure out for the last 100 years. I spent 6 years in oil and gas with the University of Wyoming. I worked on coal capture, pyrolysis, bitumen recovery, high oil upgrading. Half of my family works in oil and gas, the other half is in ranching. I love every bit of oil and gas, and I love that Wyoming has done what it can to preserve that legacy. Why doesn't it treat every single Wyoming industry that way? Because I have yet to see a factual reason. Seems like we're missing out on a whole lot of things. Yellowstone's giving us a nice involuntary exercise in the economic impact of tourism on much more than just one small town and one person's vote. These are people's lives. I ran a bar for 10 years in Rock River, 40 miles north of Laramie. That's incredibly seasonal. You miss out on 1 or 2 months, 1 or 2 problems. You miss out on a million things. Yeah, we have a million policies that reject tourism instead of embracing our ideas and embracing what the public and those who are affected by that tourism want, instead of just rejecting the entire thing forthwith. Doesn't make any sense to me. It never has. Another one I'm gonna light on, since we're obviously hitting every single red ball in politics today, is I am campaigning on legalizing medical marijuana in Wyoming. It absolutely makes no sense to me whatsoever why we continue to allow millions of dollars in tax money to cross the border, because guess what's gonna happen if we don't? It's not gonna stop. Last time I checked, people in Wyoming have a bad habit of doing what we want. Why are we not profiting off of it?
Thank you. Trey, we'll go to you for this question next. With revenue fluctuations from gas and oil and demand for coal reduced, what do you envision for a transition and a future Wyoming economy?
Thank you. So as an economic developer, I love strategic plans because they've documented the community's desires. So going back to the Endow initiative, which it was hard for me to see that set aside, we need to double down on our outdoor rec and tourism economies, including our creative economies, so that we're sharing our talents and our cultural assets with visitors. We need to do a better job of supporting our ag producers as entrepreneurs. With supply chain issues, it's more important for us to focus on locally made foods and products and make sure that our family farms are well supported. We need to double down on manufacturing, specifically small-scale manufacturing that we see in downtown, like Range Leather and Atmosphere Mountain Works. We need to support more data and information technologies, renewable energies, and really embrace entrepreneurialism across the scope. The majority of our new jobs are coming from existing businesses, small businesses that already live here. We don't have to give them an incentive to move to our communities. We don't have to shield them from how cold it is in the winter. So instead of spending so much money on recruitment, we need to pivot and take care of those who already call Wyoming home and help our job creators do what they do best, create jobs.
Thank you. Marav, we'll go to you next with the same question. With revenue fluctuations from gas and oil and demand for coal reduced, what do you envision for a transition and a future Wyoming economy?
I think that's a key thing we need to concentrate on, and I agree with Trey that losing Endow was a big hit to planning forward. We can offer a lot more than just being an energy state. We have a lot of natural resources in addition to tourism and agriculture. We have a lot of minerals in Wyoming. We have rare earth minerals that we are not harvesting. Bear Lodge Mountain, right next to Gillette, easy to convert coal mining to rare earth minerals. We can develop alternative energy sources. We have the facilities here to come up with semi-nuclear. Or hydrogen. Go to Kemmer. You know, there are one of the largest hydrogen deposits in North America is near Kemmer. Why aren't we using these resources? And as Trey can tell everybody, each community in Wyoming, and I got the pleasure of meeting a lot of locals in 2020, each county has something unique to offer. And if we can rely on what's in each county and work with the community, as Trey is doing here in Albany County, if we can reach out to them and use their ingenuity, we can get Wyoming economy diverse. But we need to attract and retain our people by making this a wonderful place to live where healthcare is available to everyone and we have great education for all kids.
Thank you. We'll go to Brian next. With revenue fluctuations from gas and oil and demand for coal reduced, what do you envision for a transition and a future Wyoming economy?
I have a real advantage. I've been on city council 20 years. I get to see what Trey is doing with the Downtown Development Authority. I get to see what Brad Enzy's doing for most of Albany County. So diversify, I think it's going to be the biggest thing. The state can't be consistent on coal. We have 2 fantastic ranches that the city has bought for water rights. We have the Monolith Ranch, it's being leased, it's a cattle operation now. We now have the South, I call it the South Bath Ranch. There's 5 different Bath ranches in the area, so you got to make sure you're talking about the right one. It is now being leased by Wyotech. They want to put a ranching program in the next 10 years that they're going to develop to teach people how to be stewards of the land. We have the Kmart building. We have a prospective person that wants to lease that and open up a box store and a clothing store and a cosmetic store, and then the old sports locker would be a shoe store. If we get all those back in there, we'd be great. Economic development's going to help everything here. To diversify ourselves, can't even talk anymore, I apologize. But the things we can do in Albany County, we have everything. We have outdoors, we have winter items, cross-country skiing, snowmobiling. We have a nice ski area. It's great. Thank you.
Carly, we'll go to you next. With revenue fluctuations from gas and oil and demand for coal reduced, what do you envision for a transition and a future Wyoming economy?
Thank you. There's been a lot of great ideas thrown out tonight. I can't wait to go read the transcript. But one of the things that we haven't really touched on too much is that we have we're losing workforce people. So our Generation X we don't have enough of a population of Generation X people to fill the gap in workforce for baby boomers. So we're going to be short on workers, which we already are, because we have an environment that we have not created where young people want to live, where families want to live and stay. We're closing birthing centers. We don't have adequate health care. We don't have enough mental health care. And so I think one of the big things, or two things that I would add to this discussion tonight is we need to expand Medicaid. That would likely create 2,000 jobs right now. The healthcare industry creates good jobs. We should try and get more of our people in Wyoming to be able to work in those professions, and it will benefit our communities. The other thing, in terms of how can we fix this, I mean, we have to talk about tax reform, right? We have to talk about how are we taxing businesses, because we probably need to keep the businesses that we have, support those, expand their economic impact, and if we don't make a state where people want to live and love in, we don't have workers to work in any of those.
Thank you. And RJ, get the last word on this one. With revenue fluctuations from gas and oil and demand for coal reduced, what do you envision for a transition and a future Wyoming economy?
Well, it seems tonight at the table, diversifying is the key word. As I was researching some of the economic issues that Wyoming faces, something that came up time and time again was the influx of what a business might bring is not cost effective to the resources they're going to pull out of the community. So I kept seeing that, and I'm looking at that saying, so in other words, new business need not apply. And that message needs to stop. There needs to be just a paradigm shift in how we are welcoming and viewing new business into the state and bringing them in. Obviously, we need to continue to support our energy industry, our agriculture industry, and our tourism. But we would be foolish not to start immediately looking for new sources of revenue. We have to be welcoming, and we need to be in a position to pivot when those opportunities come and not be kind of, 5 steps behind and say, oh, well, we just don't have the infrastructure to bring it in, or we don't have the services to support, this new influx of business and community. We have to be ready for it.
Oh, thank you. Okay, the next question, we'll start with Brian here. What specific piece of legislation do you intend to sponsor that you would most like to convince the legislature to adopt?
Wow, that's a loaded question. One of the things that were stated is right now that the Platte is running out of water except for the senior water right users. So I want to see to protect the water in the state of Wyoming, whether it be somebody's aquifer or water off the river. The other thing is I want to support our natural resources. Our mountains here need, I don't know how to state that as protection to them, so that we have, I'm going to use the word, the economy out of them. Laramie's economy is absolutely huge out of the mountains. Whether it's fishing, whether it's winter, whether it's fall hunting, we attract a huge amount of people to Laramie. We rent out motels where there's no rooms left in Laramie, and that's a lot. So I would say water and natural resources, which is on that too, but our mountains that surround us, we now have going to be put into full swing probably next year, Pilot Hill. There's a meeting on it Monday. We have the Happy Jack area. I'm so old I skied at the Happy Jack ski area. It was really a pretty cool little ski area. We now still have the Snowy Range ski area. But what we have here to protect what we have now is going to become critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Merav, I'd like you to tackle this question next. What specific piece of legislation do you intend to sponsor that you would most like to convince the legislature to adopt?
So I want to take money that the state is getting from the federal government, different programs, including AML. And for example, we got a lot of money through the PPP program during the pandemic. And I would like to create a fund that will award homeowners grants to install solar panels on their property. Together with these grants and the rebate from the federal government for the federal taxes and the savings on your electricity bill, property owners will be able to pay off the cost of the system, and then within a few years, and I've just done it myself, so I can tell you from personal experience, then you have a lot more money in your pocket because you generate your own electricity and you don't have to pay the utilities. That will boost our economy, our local economy, because people will have more money to spend on other things, not on electricity. The other side of the coin is, though, that we want to make sure that the utility company can adopt the grid. And so some of these grant monies will go towards maintaining the grid, maintaining the workforce of the utilities.
Trey, you're up next here. What specific piece of legislation do you intend to sponsor that you would most like to convince the legislature to adopt?
Thank you. So the bills that I have worked on and successfully passed and then continue to work on are in direct correlation to the needs of my constituents. So it's my job as an elected official to listen, to learn from the residents of Albany County and to problem solve around those concerns. So for example, my first bill that I passed as a freshman was brought to me by our local meadery down here. They have a winery license. That license did not allow them to do off-site tasting or catering in the way that a brewery would. So that seemed like a simple fix to allow that business to bring in more revenue and to make more money, which is what we want our businesses to do. And so the bill that I'm working on now also comes directly from a constituent who brought up to me during Freedom Has a Birthday that mental health is not included as a reason for an employee to take sick leave under the state employee handbook. That's bizarre to me. So where I focus my time and attention and the bills that I will bring, again, come directly from conversations I have with you, members of this community, and my constituents.
Thank you. RJ, we'll go to you next. What specific piece of legislation do you intend to sponsor that you would most like to convince the legislature to adopt?
Wyoming continues to be the #1 state for suicides in the nation. As I was doing my research, I was appalled that House Bill 62, I believe in the general session, failed. That is the suicide prevention instruction. I was a teacher for 23 years. I reached out to actually a couple of the representatives who voted no on that bill, and I said, hey, what stopped that bill? And they said it was very contentious, and we just decided that, teachers had too much on their plate. Well, I was a teacher for 23 years, so I had to look into this. Suicide prevention would be taught in a health class. One high school class, not in social studies, not in English, not in math, not in science, in health class, one class. As a teacher, I would sit there and there would be times when I would say to myself, I just don't have time. Well, I'm sorry, with us being #1 in the nation, we don't have time not to bring suicide prevention into the school, age appropriate, and start saving some lives.
Thank you. Carly, we'll go to you next. What specific piece of legislation do you intend to sponsor that you would most like to convince the legislature to adopt?
It's really hard when you ask me to pinpoint the one I most, because I
Do it.
have a whole slew of them, but I'm going to. My concerns always come back to healthcare and criminal justice reform. Those are two things that I am just obsessed with. How do we make sure that people can go to the doctor and not go bankrupt? And how do we make sure that our justice system is equitable and just? There are, I think, 2 bills that would help with that, but I'll stick to one because I'm going to follow the rules. Legalize marijuana. If we legalize marijuana and we tax it, we are taking people out of our Department of Corrections. We're saving $40,000 to $60,000 per person on average a year by not having them in the incarceral system. Department of Corrections said that that will add up to tens of millions of dollars. The bill that we sponsored in the general session that passed the House Judiciary Committee taxed, I think, at a rate that would have introduced $40 million into our state budget at least, and we already have the infrastructure to test how much cannabis is within a substance. And so I think that the people of Wyoming certainly want it, and it helps with some folks' health care as well.
Thanks. And Julie, I think you figured it out. Process of elimination. I'll give you the last word on this topic.
No, I can't count. I don't know what I'm talking about. Just kidding.
What specific piece of legislation do you intend to sponsor that you would most like to convince the legislature to adopt?
I'm going to follow and break the rules. I couldn't agree more with Carly, but specifically medical marijuana. In working in healthcare, I have seen with my own eyes, it saved lives. You're not going to change my mind after what I've seen. I've seen children brought back from hospital rooms when they couldn't stop seizing more than 10 years ago, and I see it every single day. You're not going to convince me it's a bad idea, and you're not going to convince me the Wyomingites that are spending tens of millions of dollars over borders are going to stop, because we're in Wyoming. We got a bad habit of doing what we want. Why are we not on top of this? One thing I'd like to remind those who might be a bit apprehensive is blue laws. When Prohibition was repealed, the only states that were allowed to keep dry counties or regulate how alcohol was sold were able to do so because they had laws in place prior to federal Prohibition being repealed. Which means if Wyoming continues to wait with the amount of money, $66 billion, that they will admit to, it's a matter of time. So it doesn't make much sense. But it is not the only priority I have. I agree with Carly, it's very unfair. Comprehensive fiscal accountability is a very long sentence to basically say we all pay taxes. Why is it so hard to figure out where they go? We can make beautiful pie charts and add numbers and figure out receipts. This should be easy. And how much easier would this conversation be with constituents when we need to deal with issues? If you cannot check your bank account, how do you know what you are doing? Wyoming doesn't even have a good comprehensive plan to do this, especially in our small towns. May not be a big deal, except about 80% of Wyoming's a small town.
Thank you. All right. We will switch to a little bit of a different topic. And Marav, I'd like to start with you this round. The question is, do you support Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
I support Medicaid expansion. I've supported it from day one and have been testifying to the legislature. I think it will be a huge benefit, bring huge benefit to Wyoming in many, many respects. First of all, it will provide affordable health care to thousands of our constituents and will help with even things like age in home. for many people. If you think about our aging population, Wyoming is the second fastest aging population in the nation. A lot of our young people are leaving, unfortunately, and many of us are aging. And Medicaid currently supports a lot of seniors to stay and live at home. And Medicaid expansion will help more seniors stay at home. It will save the state millions and millions of dollars and will bring a lot of federal funds that can be used for maintaining our maternity wards and OB/GYN facilities that we are losing right now. So absolutely, I support Medicaid expansion. I call on everybody to support Medicaid expansion in the next legislative session. Please call in, let everybody know you are in support.
Thank you. RJ, go to you next for the same question. Do you support Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
This is a simple question, I think, probably for all of us. Yes, I do support Medicaid expansion. All the numbers support it. The revenue it would generate, the number of Wyomingites who support it, and the number of new citizens that would be covered underneath it. So all those numbers are positive in support of it. Again, Marav just mentioned the loss of some of those facilities is a concern. Medicaid expansion may help that. The home health services, again, so it's a positive, and save some time and just end it there.
Thanks. Trey, I'd like to go to you this next. Do you support Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
Yes, thank you. I am an enthusiastic supporter of Medicaid expansion and was part of the body in the House to see that pass on the House side for the first time this current session, which was incredibly exciting, and then it went to the Senate and died. But we absolutely need to expand coverage for those who don't, whose jobs don't offer health care, mine included. If I wasn't married, I wouldn't have health care coverage. So we need to think about our friends and families, roughly 20,000 in Wyoming, who don't have access to health coverage. Again, those are our friends and our neighbors. Don't we want the best for them? I strongly support this as also an economic development tool, as those states who have expanded Medicare show expansion gains results in employment and growth in the labor market. So in closing, healthy citizens, those who don't have to worry about the cost of their health care, are productive and engaged members of our community. This would help address our workforce shortage, reduce employee sick days, and increase our economic output while protecting our hospitals from the high cost of uncompensated care. So again, the majority of our friends and neighbors are asking us for this. We need to find the political will to get it done.
Thank you. We'll go to Julie next. Julie, do you support Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
Thank you for that question. My answer is going to be a bit longer. Apprehensively, yes, and I'd like to use the example of aging in home as an example. It is not a cure-all with Medicaid expansion. There's quite a few people who live in the Rock River area, for example, who would not be able to get services even if healthcare providers were able to expand Medicaid for home health services due to an insurance compact issues for transporting them. They could provide them with in-home care, but they could not transport them to doctor's appointments and so forth. Medicaid then makes rules and decisions as to whether or not those people can stay in their homes and when they need to go to a nursing home. I see this every day. So I'm not against it, because in the 10 years I've been waiting for Wyoming to come up with a better idea, no one has even made a decent attempt. And if they have, please inform me, because I would love to read it and see it. People need access to a doctor. They need access to basic care. But I do not like it being talked about as a cure-all, because I have seen its shortcomings in other states where it's fully expanded. I've had experience with it in trying to help family members and other colleagues. It's not a cure-all, and it's not going to solve every single problem that we have. So we cannot look at this as a single shot, because it won't be.
Thanks. Brian, we'll go to you next. Do you support Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
It's a very loaded question, because just as it was spoken, we have a lot of rural communities. We have a lot of people on farms and ranches. Is it going to help them? It's not going to help them. Is it going to help the citizens of Laramie? It's going to help the citizens of Laramie a great deal. So yes, I'd be in favor of it, especially since it's not going to cost us out of our pocket. It will actually create jobs. Anything I can do as if I get elected or while I'm currently on city council to help revenue in Laramie, to help things come back to Laramie that we have lost, I will do. So on something like this, yes, I would support it to help the economics of Laramie, because it not only will help healthcare, it'll help economics, both.
Thank you. And that leaves Carly. Carly, the question for you is, do you support Medicaid expansion? Why or why not?
Yes, I support Medicaid expansion. And just an aside from the last comments, we heard from ranchers who wanted Medicaid expansion because they specifically didn't have health care because they fell in that gap and that they would benefit from expanding Medicaid. The reason why I support Medicaid expansion and why I support people having health care is because no one should have to die because they are too poor to go to the doctor. In 2015, my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and on the same day, my appendix burst. It was the luckiest day of my life, and part of why that happened, if my mom had been here in Wyoming, and why she can't live here in Wyoming with me, is because she would die. Because in Colorado, she has Medicaid because they've expanded. My appendix cost $60,000, and I didn't have it. I didn't pay for all of it. I didn't pay for most of it. I did have health insurance through the university at that time, but that uncompensated care is crippling to our rural hospitals. When someone goes into the emergency room and they can't afford to pay for their visit, there's $100 million every year that our hospitals have to come up with for people like me, and there are many of us, 25,000 plus of us.
Thank you. We are right here at the end, and so what I want to do is give each candidate 1 minute for a final statement or a thought. Are we able to do that with the timer? We will start with Brian.
Thank you. I've gotten to start first a bunch of times. Again, I'll announce
trying to mix
myself.
it up.
Yep. My name is Brian Schuster. I have 20 years' experience on city council. I have been on probably 15 different boards. I forgot to mention that we also, on the Monolith Ranch, have a solar company that's interested on 1,400 acres out there. Be great if they did it. They have signed an agreement to lease property, whether they build or not. That has not been signed on. I am currently on the budget committee. There are only 3 counselors on the budget committee. Every month we have to meet, we have to review every single check that goes out. So I'm very good at finance. I'm a teacher. I really enjoy teaching. I feel that's one of my best things. Some of my best friends are elementary ed teacher. I joke sometimes that my youth that I have straight out of high school is the same as a 4-year-old. So I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Next, final statement or thought, I'd like to hear from Carly.
Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this tonight and for everyone that came out and also watched online. We have new districts. A lot of my district is new. And so and as you see, I don't have an opponent at the current moment up here with me, but I do want to make sure that I get to introduce myself and hear from everybody in my district. It is important to me that I go to Cheyenne to sit in our seat, not in just my seat. It belongs to all of us. So I will be canvassing and knocking doors, doing whatever I can to get access to you, because that burden is on me. But if you would like to reach out to me, my email is, I guess I can't give my government email, carlyrprevenza@gmail.com. My phone number is 307-223-6902. I want to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Trey?
Thank you. I am running for re-election because I love this community, and I love our residents. And even with the turmoil of the pandemic, the divisiveness we see, I am really enjoying the experience of being able to reach across the aisle, find commonality, and work towards solutions. So if you choose to have me, I would love to serve another term. I'd love to continue to work on economic development strategies for the state, take what I've learned from our award-winning downtown and apply them at the state level, take what I'm learning from legislative leadership classes, and what hasn't come up tonight is there are solutions for workforce housing and affordable housing, and I want to be part of that task force that moves those solutions forward at the state level. So I ask for your support and your vote, and I look forward to visiting with you at your door.
Thank you, and we'll go to Julie next.
Thank you, and thank you for the League of Women Voters and the library for putting this on, for everyone who came, everyone who watched online and will watch it in the future. Julie McAllister, running for House District 14. A few of us have mentioned redistricting up here. As I'd said before, I was pleasantly disappointed, so happy to have Laramie be part of my district, and so heartbroken to lose some of the communities that I had made such great relationships with. When I got into politics, it was to fix things before they broke, and it hasn't gotten any better. I have managed to make some amazing relationships on the Hill. I've even managed to get a couple of laws passed. Was heavily involved with the hunting age change and the game roadkill, which has made us the butt of very many jokes, so you can all laugh at me, and I will take the burden happily and with pleasure. I hit a deer, and it made me feel awful, so I had to do something about it. That is what I do. As Carly said, we all mean it. We want to hear from you. The best ideas come from constituents, but we all need someone who's willing to stand their ground and say no or yes, because it's right or wrong for our constituents. Thank you. I hate that beeper.
Marav, some final thoughts?
In 2020, I got to meet a lot of Wyomingites. In fact, more than 73,000 Wyomingites voted for me. And when I look at our state legislature, I don't see them represented because we don't have enough Democrats in our caucus. So I decided to run for the state legislature to offer another vision, another view to add to what Wyomingites feel is important. So here I am running for House District 46. I'd like to hear from you. I like to hear what is important to you. Please visit my website, bendavid2020.com, and send me an email. We can meet and discuss things in person, but let me know what you think, so I, again, know what is important to you and what I can bring to our legislature to represent you. Thank you, and thanks for the League of Women Voters for organizing.
Thank you, and RJ, that leaves you. Final thoughts?
I taught for 23 years in the public education system at all levels. It is imperative and vital that we protect our public schools. We have elected officials currently working to undermine our public schools. They want to offer you choice, but they're not offering you any options. The other thing I want to leave with is, it's on my card. It says, the extremist of both parties vilify terms traditionalist and progressive. These words are at the core of the American spirit. We should hold true to the traditions that make our country great and progress to meet new challenges. Where these two ideals converge is where excellence and prosperity emerge. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for this opportunity, and I'll be here for your questions. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very, very much to everybody. Go ahead and give them a round of applause. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So thank you. I guess we'll hand it over to you.
And before he goes anywhere, let's give Brad a very big round of applause.
Thank you.
A great first beginner, don't you think? Oh, yeah. And he works in one of those industries in town, right? What do you do at UL?
I am a software developer.
Okay.
So-
How many people work there?
It started in 2014. There were 4 of us, and I think up at our facility now there are close to 45.
There you go. Just another one of those businesses.
And those are great jobs. Like those are, every single person up there has a degree. So these are very, very advanced tech jobs. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and there's a tech place downtown, what used to be, I suppose, the penny store. And, yeah. Well, it hires PhD mathematicians. Did you know that? When was that going to happen? Anyway, so I thank you all for being here. I'm always impressed, so impressed by the range of thoughts and how interesting you make our community sound. So thank you. I hope you all get elected. For those of you who were trying to jot down their contact information, we have a sheet. Let me pass it around. And there are extra copies right over there, and we'll post them. But you know, we didn't put on websites. I don't know if we can make the print any smaller, but we can try. And so that you don't forget Brad, he's actually on the contact sheet as well. Let's see, what was I going to do? Oh, yes, I'm really thrilled that you guys like the idea of the transcriptions. That's just, I was so delighted. And thanks to our tech people for making that happen. It happened sometime yesterday, day before. It's a recent fix. So watch the YouTube. Tell your friends to watch the recordings. We have 4 upcoming forums. They happen on Thursdays. I think we may change the Thursday for July 28th because I think PBS is going to do another debate at 7. So we may move that one back. That's the commissioners, the assessor, and the treasurer. But we'll make announcements with regard to that. And you don't have to put away the chairs anymore. Talk to one another, enjoy yourselves, and vote. Thank you.